Hello.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, that's on.
Okay, we've been introducing everybody else all day, but now it's our turn, and you guys are stuck with us.
And the only rhyme that I could think of on short notice, it's Bonnie and Sam. No, it goes, well, damn, it's Bonnie and Sam.
Oh my goodness.
That's all I got. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick talk, and then after our talk, we're going to do a closing ceremony, so we're just going to roll right into it. So I just want you guys to know what to expect. Okay, so our talk is called Dev Up. We're very excited to be here today, and I'm Bonnie, and this is my child component, Samantha. Nerd humor. We have 3 sections in this talk: learning, community, and Dev Up.
Fun fact, I was actually learning new software while working on this talk and practicing my drawing skills, so it was really fun. And this first section is keep learning.
You might recognize this quote, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. It's not our quote, but it's very true, and I love this. When you stop learning, you stop growing.
So you might think that all the speakers today are super smart, and I can see how you think that because they definitely are super smart. But the thing is, we put a lot of work into our presentations, and that's what makes us look so smart. And we do get a moment of glory when we get on stage and everything's prepared. But my point is that people up here are not magically smarter than you. You can do everything we're doing. We're going to talk about how you can grab opportunities like this yourself.
And why you should. So first of all, we want you to embrace studying forever. I've seen some very smart senior developers who got promoted into great jobs, and then they got comfortable, and then they got lazy. And they were really good at what they did, but they didn't bother to keep up with the new tools that were coming out and evolving. If you want an advantage over all of the competition, you should be keeping your finger on the pulse. Even if you are the big senior, hotshot, you still need to be keeping up with new things that are coming out. If your employer doesn't offer you professional training, don't let that stop you. Consider paying for it yourself. And I know you might not want to, but I promise you, every dollar that you invest in your own training will come back to you big time.
And we know that this does take time, and it is work. But if you want to keep up in this industry, I know you guys know, you have to budget time to learn. Don't learn the minimum that you need to complete your tasks at work. Learn about things that are cool, or learn about things that you wish you were working on, because you know what? That knowledge sure will come in handy when you get crazy and decide to finally reach for the stars and apply for that really scary but exciting job. Yeah. I always forget I have to click the animation. Okay, this is not how a clock works, and I understand that, but you know what? My generation grew up on digital, so.
Okay, these are definitely not the only places where you can learn more. These are just a few of our favorites, and also a few places where beginners and participation are encouraged.
The first one is one that is very near and dear to our hearts. It is run and organized and founded by yours truly, Bonnie Brennan. And this is not specifically for beginners, but beginners are definitely thought of when picking out each episode. You can, if you are scared to talk on stage, which I completely understand, you can practice by talking on NG Houston, giving a talk on NG Houston. If you want to do that, you can reach out to Bonnie on Twitter at Bonster75. And all the videos are available on YouTube under NG Houston.
It used to be just a regular local meetup in Houston, and now it's a YouTube channel, so you don't have to go to Houston for this. Angular Air also has weekly episodes of all the hottest new stuff. This is a little more senior than NG Houston. This is also a great resource for staying up to date on all things Angular, and sometimes we even have the Angular team come on Angular Air and tell us what they're working on. It's very cool.
If you're more into articles, Angular In Depth is a great one for you. They have many articles from world-class teachers about pretty much anything you could think of.
And Angular In Depth was started by Max Koretsky, which you guys saw earlier today. You already know that guy. If you live here in Belgium, you should definitely feel welcome at Angular Belgium meetup. It's run by the same people. Even if you traveled here, there's most likely a meetup near you. And if there's not, consider starting one. You can search for one near you. You can search for Angular conferences. You can search for a meetup. And if you don't find a meetup, think about starting a meetup.
As a dyslexic, something that made a huge difference for me in learning consistently was adding pictures to my repertoire. I found it much easier and a lot more fun when I was incorporating pictures. This is a course that I am working on, and it's still very much in progress, but it is a resource for people who want to learn Angular but need pictures or want pictures.
Okay, so what happens when you're doing something complicated and you're looking it up online and you're checking the docs and all the blog posts and you can't find anything because what you're doing is more complicated than any of the examples that you find online? This is what we affectionately refer to as the bleeding edge, and it can be a little scary. But don't despair, because this is actually a really good problem to have, because now you're considered elite, at least in my mind. You're what we refer to as an early adopter, because some of the times when you're using something brand new, the documentation just isn't there yet because it's new, right? This is definitely a term that we use with affection. We love our early adopters. If you're struggling with something that you can't find online, you have to know that you're not the only one having this problem. And don't panic. There's a path forward off the edge of this cliff, and that's our next section.
Community!
When you reach the bleeding edge in open source, the next step we recommend is to start participating in the community. Not only will this help your code better and you'll learn faster, but this will also benefit your career. Almost all prospective employers these days will stalk you online, and they love to find developers who are already participating in the community.
And I know some of you might be shy, but posting stuff online
Can be a little scary.
It can be a little scary, but don't worry, just stay with us and we will address that in the next section.
I think it's actually the section after the next, but that's okay. We're going to talk about that.
We're going to get there. In the Netherlands, we have this word, collega, and it is a combination of colleague and competitor.
What this means is the success of one does not diminish the others. In fact, quite the opposite, especially in open source. When we work together, it's mutually beneficial to all of us. Even if we're literally business competitors, the beautiful thing about Angular is that it's only increasing in popularity, and there are so many companies looking for experienced Angular developers. So there are plenty of clients to go around, and we're not going to run out of work to do if you help somebody become an Angular developer.
Just in case participating in the Angular community is new for you, we broke it down into a few simple guidelines so you can start easily.
The first step is to isolate the problem. If you can recreate the problem in a stack blitz to easily share with others, this is ideal. However, sometimes when you isolate the problem, the process of walking through those steps to get to your problem or talking through those steps with someone that you're asking for help, in the middle of that, before they even help you, you figured it out on your own. This is called the rubber ducky phenomenon. And actually, a lot of us have rubber duckies on our desks to remind us about this. And sometimes I actually talk to my rubber ducky. And it's weird, I know. I thought it was ridiculous, but it's actually really helpful. Okay, so step 2 is to find a friend. And I know that's not always easy, but here's the thing. If you're trying to do something difficult, if you're trying to do something that's just beyond the normal docs, try to find anyone out there online who's doing something similar, maybe not exactly what you're doing, but if you can find someone who's maybe written a blog post or something like that that's even remotely close to what you're doing, that's, at least you have somebody, right? That's a friend. So this quote has been used to talk about political reform, but I think it works even better as an open source motto. The third tip is to try contacting your new friend directly. A rising tide lifts all boats, right? Whatever you found might be a few weeks or months old. Maybe there's a Stack Overflow question that didn't even get answered. But the thing is, if you reach out and just ask them maybe if they found a solution, or even if they have any suggestions for you, maybe what they're doing is close but not exactly what you're looking for. And that's okay, because they still might have knowledge that could help you, or even another clue to just point you in the right direction. And if you were already stuck, it couldn't hurt. I was working on some advanced, really complicated reactive form stuff, very dynamic, and I got completely stuck. The docs didn't include what I was trying to do, and I found somebody who was doing something not exactly the same but similar, and I reached out to him, and we're friends now, and that was like 2 years ago, and now he works at Narwhal, and he's like a rock star, and I knew him before he was a rock star because I reached out to him randomly and said, hey, can you help me with this thing and it was great, and I didn't even know the guy. Step 4 is to share what you've learned. You have blazed the trail. You maybe solved something that was, especially if it was really difficult for you to solve, right? It's difficult for other people too. So if you solve something that you're excited about, share it. I know, this is scary. We haven't forgotten, and we're going to talk about that, I promise. Just stay with us. So not only can you and your colleagues make each other better, but teaching each other new stuff that you're learning will help you learn better. You're helping other people, but you're also helping yourself. When I'm preparing a talk, I always come across something. I'm not exactly sure if this is technically correct, little details, right? I'm terrified to get up here and look like an idiot in front of all of you. So before I get up on stage, I'm going to double check if I'm not exactly sure, right? I'm going to double check all of it. And so I'm trying to look smarter for you guys, but in the process, I actually tricked myself into being smarter. So you see how the best way to learn is to teach.
So it might be kind of hard to think of something to teach. So a couple things, some tips, ideas, something that you're passionate about. Teach something that made your life easier. Teach something you struggled with at first. Or teach something that you want to learn about.
So how do you start teaching?
Good question.
You might write a blog post. You might present at a meetup. You might submit a CFP. You might mentor someone. Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is not for the faint of heart because they can be a little rough at times. But
hey, imagine if you're that one person that's on Stack Overflow and making everybody feel welcome, because I don't know if there are a whole lot of people like that on Stack Overflow. Kind of scary.
Yeah, but how many of you have found what you needed in someone else's question on Stack Overflow, right? Okay, the communication and collaboration is what makes this community so amazing.
So, I promised we would talk about this, and here we are. Have you ever wanted to do something, but fear has stopped you?
Yeah? Okay. Raise your hand if you would not be comfortable getting up here on stage just because it's scary. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. This is for you. Okay, this section is called Dev Up. The point of this section is to talk about what we do about that imposter syndrome, because the last thing we want to do is let it stop us.
Public speaking is one of the most terrifying things in humanity. This is well documented. So we get the fear, trust us. But here's a secret you need to know. All of us feel like this. Every single one of us. We're all terrified to get up here. We're not different than you at all. We're scared too. We're just brave, and you can be brave too.
And it does get easier over time, because when we
It does.
first started speaking, when we first started teaching, we were not this polished. This
gosh,
is
a mess.
years of experience and practice, right? And when you first start, and we're not going to expect you to be, it takes a while, but you don't wait until you're polished to start. You get polished after you start.
This section is inspired by the most amazing TED Talk I have ever seen. I highly recommend it, even if you're not a girl. Best TED Talk ever. In this section, in this TED Talk, Courtney Farrell talks about self-confidence and how she describes it. I can't tell the story as well as she did, so you'll have to go watch the talk, but I'll do my best to summarize. So Courtney's daughter was about to start kindergarten, and the night before, she talks to her daughter about how she's going to walk into school and be brave and prepared, and she is holding an acorn, and she tells her daughter that this acorn knows that it's going to be an oak tree someday. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, no matter what anyone says, this acorn knows it's going to be an oak tree. And that is self-confidence, knowing that someday you will be better than you are today.
When I first started my NG Houston meetup, I didn't feel like an expert at all. I didn't even feel qualified to run a meetup. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. The only reason why I started a meetup in Houston was because I was looking for somebody smarter than me who could help me when I got stuck, because I couldn't find the answers online. And I first started, I was not an expert. I was not good at speaking in front of people. I was a mess, but I just did what I could, and the people who came to the meetup were so grateful, and they were so nice to me, and they were so supportive that it ended up being a great experience. But at the time, I did not feel like I had anything to offer. I was actually terrified.
Last year, I was presenting a brand new project, actually right here on this very stage where she is exactly standing. And I debuted this project, and I was terrified. Angular for the visual learner, when I found out that I was dyslexic, that whole journey was very personal and very difficult for me. So getting on stage and telling people this is something I've really struggled with, and this is how I'm attempting to correct the problem, it was terrifying. And about, an hour before I went on stage, I was crying. I was like, I'm not doing the talk. Find somebody else. I'm not doing it.
She chickened out. She
I
said,
really
I'm not
did.
going on stage. I changed my mind. I'm like,
was
they
like, no.
flew us here from Houston. You have to do the talk.
But it turned out really well, because everybody here is so incredibly supportive. Like, it went really well.
Although Angular has been around for a while, it hasn't always been as popular as it is now. And most of us on stage have been using Angular since the beginning, but don't overlook the huge number of people who have just started learning Angular this year. There was even a whole room full of people who just learned Angular today. So if you compare yourself to the people up on stage, you're never going to feel like an expert. But the minute you turn around and look at the people who just started, to them, you're already a badass, right? So they already think that you're amazing, and you do have a lot to offer. So as long as you look at the people who started before you, you don't feel like you have that much. But as you look at the beginners, and to them, you are the expert. Don't wait until you feel comfortable. For now, just look for anything that you can teach. I bet if you try, you can find someone who would really appreciate your help. And if you don't know anyone that you think would appreciate your help, go look up Hack the Future, because I know they would love help.
So this next part is for anyone who still feels like a beginner. Raise your hand if you feel like a beginner.
Where were the beginners? Any beginners in here?
Yeah.
Or if you just feel like a beginner?
I know from when I first started programming, this stuff can be really intimidating. The thing is, this conference has made such an effort to make everyone feel like family. It's because we are. We're in this together.
This is our good friend Matt Carniato, and we asked Matt to come up and say just a quick word to you guys about his experience with what we're talking about. Try it.
Hey. Talking about being terrified, right? I've been working with Angular for a long time, but only last year I went to my first conference and I met Bonnie. She encouraged me to take the risk, and I was super afraid. I told her I'm not ready, maybe I should study more, wait more time. But I took the risk, and in the end, I present 5 talks this year. I grew really famous in my company, my boss never being so happy. I had a really good progression in my career. I started to apply all the knowledge. And now if I have a problem, I can talk with these guys because they are my friends now. In the Angular community, we don't have this thing that we have the speakers are really unreachable. Actually, they are really nice people, and you can approach them at any time, and they're going to help you. That's what I love in this community. Be part of this community.
How did it affect your job when you started participating in the community? Did it help you when you went to work and you were writing code and you got stuck? Did that change at all?
Yeah, that changed a lot because you had more confidence. I know that I have people to back me up. So it was a fundamental part for me to be more knowledgeable nowadays. Really brings you confidence that what you're doing.
Because he knew we had his back. All right, thank you very much, Matt.
No problem.
So you might not feel like an expert, but please don't let imposter syndrome hold you back for one more day. Because the day that I met Matt, and I was telling him, like, hey, you're a really cool guy. You're pretty smart. You know what you're talking about. You should submit a talk. And he said, yeah, I would love to do that. It would be my dream to speak at a conference. But I'm waiting until I'm more of an expert because I'm not an expert right now. And I was like, no, do it now because you're never going to feel like an expert. And now he looks like an expert, right? And he was waiting until he felt like an expert, and that's the thing. Don't wait. Don't wait one more day until you feel like an expert. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room because all of us working together are so much better than any of us could ever hope to be alone. So here's what I want you to do. Wait, beginners, raise your hands this time. Okay, you see this link here? This is the NGBE Slack channel. This channel is for you because you are the future. We are excited about you. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear what you're working on. We want to hear if you're looking for a job. We want to hear if you're stuck on an error message that you can't get past. We want to hear if you need some help with your NX folder structure or whatever, right? This Slack channel is for all of us to help each other. And if you have a stupid question, throw it in there, right? And if you guys, and I've done this before, and usually any question that you come up with, you guys will usually help each other, but all of the speakers that you saw today are in that Slack channel. So, and I can't promise you their time. I can't promise you that they're going to answer all of your questions. I don't know what their availability is. But usually what happens is if you start asking questions or just, talking in the Slack channel, like we want to know what you're working on. We want to know what you're excited about. If you do something that you think is really cool or you learn about a new feature, share it with us. Tell us anything that you think might be helpful for others, or if you need help from others, this is the place for you to do that. And if you actually do come up with a problem that none of you can find the answer to, then you start tagging the experts because like if you ask a question that we don't know the answer to, we have all this connection, and then one of us can reach out to the Angular team. Like if you get a question that complicated that none of us know the answer, that's a good problem to have because then we consider it a challenge, and then everybody wants. Then it's like, okay, well, Manfred will say, if you find the answer, you need to come back and tell me, because now we all want to know, right? Don't get me started.
To recap, keep learning, because when you stop learning, you stop growing.
In this community, a rising tide lifts all boats.
And what we want you to take away from this section is fear is the little voice that tells you it's okay to give up. It's okay to not say anything because there's already somebody who knows more than you that's already taught about it. But fear is a liar. And you can say no to imposter syndrome. Teach something that makes you excited.
All right, there's one last thing that we want to share with you guys before we go, and this is really important. Last year, we visited, you guys know Jürgen, we visited Jürgen, and he gave us these t-shirts with this quote on the back. That was from a book that he read called The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe. And we had never heard this quote before, but I really loved it, and I wanted to share it all with you. We just moved from Texas to Netherlands. It was kind of scary, and this quote actually really helped me a lot. I have had my share of what one calls defeat in plenty. I have made and lost fortunes and seen great plans of mine topple through my own errors and judgment, and I have made lots of mistakes, or through other causes. But I do not recognize these as defeats. They are but interesting experiences of life. They are valuable stepping stones to success. Defeat is a condition which one must accept in order to give it reality. I refuse to give it reality by accepting it. In my philosophy, I have written these words: defeat I shall not know. It shall not touch me. I will meet it with true thinking. Resisting it will be my strengthening. But if perchance the day will give me the bitter cup, it will sweeten in the drinking. I love this concept.
Can you imagine the feeling like you can do anything? You literally can.
So what we would really like, we want all of you to do this with us, and I know it might seem a little silly, but stay with me here. But we need Jürgen to come up here, and we need a Viking. We're going to yell, you guys, because I want you guys
Where's a Viking? We need
I
a
want you guys to
Viking.
take this, because this concept has been so powerful for me in my life, in my career, and I really want you guys to take this with you out of this room. So on the count of 3, you guys, I know this is silly, but I want you guys to yell this with us.
Yell
Will you
it.
please? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Defeat
I shall not know. Woo! Thank you very much. That's our
Thank
talk.
you. Let's get off stage and come back.
Okay. Okay? Ho-ho! Okay, good job, everybody.
Oh, we had a rhyme.